Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Good Hearted Podcast. Today, we are talking about how to say no without being a dick, basically. It's been a while since I've done a whole episode devoted to boundaries. And so I thought, why not go ahead and dig into that topic now? I've definitely touched on boundaries, creating them, protecting them. Enforcing them in several different episodes, but I thought today I could more focus on how to really practice and say no to people, because that is the hardest part of having boundaries, is actually enforcing them and being brave enough to say no to things that you need to say no to. So later in this episode, I'm going to have basically templates that you can just copy and paste, put them in the notes app on your phone, something like that, and then you can just send them to people as you need to, or you can practice saying them to yourself in the mirror to have the courage to say them out loud to somebody else. But first, I want to talk about kind of the prep work that you need to do to prepare yourself to start saying no to people, especially if it's something that you struggle with. So for me, having strong boundaries is something that I started implementing a long, long time ago. If I remember right, it all started with me reading The Best Yes, I think is what it was called. And basically, that whole book was about reserving your yeses and saying no to people and opportunities and events and things in order to save for your best yes, the thing that most aligned with your life and what you wanted, and basically stop being in this cycle where you say yes to a bunch of other things that don't truly make you happy or add value to your life. And then you have to say no to those things that you really want to do in life. And then after I read that book in 2018, my word of the year was no, because I was just tired of saying yes to everyone and everything. I never enjoyed being busy, but I just ended up always having my calendar filled because I said yes to everything, to volunteering, to helping out, to running events, hosting events, or just participating in them, whether I was contributing a service or I was just attending the event. All kinds of different things. And I just got so burnt out, and I was struggling with my home life. I was struggling staying on top of like my chores and tasks at home, but also like my relationship was taking a backseat, as was like my self care and literally anything else that had to do with me, because I felt like it was selfish. And then I just realized like, this is not the life that I want. I am allowing other people and things to mold my life into something that I don't want it to be, because I'm too afraid to say no to them, essentially. And so, in order to start saying no to people, you have to shift some things when it comes to your mindset and change the rules a little bit. You have to make your own rules and make new ones, and then just be confident in your decision when it comes to setting those boundaries, which is really hard to do at first. And so that's why I kind of just wanted to ease into this topic and help you with some prep work before you start saying no to everyone with a megahorn, because that's what I want to do. Or megaphone. What's it called? Megaphone, right? Okay. Also, I'm sorry. I'm wearing my glasses because you might know this based on another episode, but I have a LASIK consultation next week, and so I have to wear my glasses, and they keep like sliding down my nose. They're driving me crazy. I never wear my glasses during the day, especially not with makeup, and so I just feel like they're sliding around. So if I keep adjusting them, that is why, and I'm sorry. So I think really the first thing that you need to do if you feel like you don't have good boundaries in place or they're just lacking is you probably need to take some time to reprioritize things in your life. This does not have to be like a huge event where you sit down at the dining room table and just hash out all of the things in your life, what's important, most important, least important, and ranking all of it. Literally just like take an inventory and think about how you're spending the majority of your time or your money or your energy. Are those things what you want to be spending those valuable things on? Because we only have so much time, only have so much energy, and only have so much money. So you might need to stop putting those resources into things that aren't benefiting you in your life and where you want to go. So you can make these like in little shifts over time. For me, I realized I was prioritizing strangers on the internet because I was putting like my social media stuff first. Next, I was prioritizing basically my colleagues in the wedding photography industry. I was attending a lot of events and, like I said, hosting things or, connecting people, like doing all of these things to help other people with their businesses. But then, like, I was not receiving much, if anything, back. Rarely even a thank you, like sometimes a thank you. But for the most part, I was like, oh my God, like I am taking all of my valuable time and instead of pouring it into my own business or my family, my relationship with my husband, I am putting it into like basically fueling other people's dreams and businesses. And it's not that I didn't enjoy helping them and I liked seeing them grow, but I was like, there has to be some give and take. I can't give up everything for somebody else because what am I doing then? How am I going to make my living? How am I going to live the life that I want to live if I'm just constantly like sacrificing myself and my time to everybody else? That's just not realistic. It should not work like that. I wouldn't want anyone else to do that for me either. So, there just might need to be times when colleagues don't come first or even second or third. Like it needs to get knocked down a few notches. And so for me, I basically realized that my family needed to come first. Everything else could wait after that. And honestly, I did not prioritize myself as the very first priority. I still am ranked down a little bit more than that. And, that might not be for you. And that's okay. I feel like we're all different. We all need to have different priorities. And so I just decided to prioritize my family and mainly the family that lives in my home and then also like my immediate family, but it's like my nuclear. Oh my God. I don't know how to say that word, but the people who live in my house is what comes above everything. Then it can go out to the next, circle of family members. Then myself, then my friends, like things like that. So just reprioritizing. And by sticking to that, that means that you're saving the best of your time and your energy and your finances and all of that for those priorities. And then other opportunities gets what's left over instead of the other way around, which is definitely how I kind of got wrapped up for a while. So then I think it's good to acknowledge that some boundaries are pretty easy to set and some are very hard to stick to. And like, I know some boundaries like even scared me for a while. And I was like, am I serious about this one? Like, do I really want to keep it? Because it's uncomfortable to tell people no. It's uncomfortable to not do what everyone else is doing and feel like there's something wrong with you because you are choosing to say no to a specific event or anything, commitment, volunteer event, like anything like that. And so for me, it's been better to think about things and plan and set boundaries now that maybe don't even affect my life at this moment. And so one thing, like when we decided to try to have a child and then we had Harper and we talked about, people that we know who have multiple kids and their schedules are like insane and they have all these sports that they have to go to and all these birthday parties and all these things, right? And I even remember back when I was in middle school, I played soccer and volleyball, which was the same season. It was so stupid. Like I had a couple weeks where it overlapped and I would literally have to my parents had to drive me or somebody drew. I don't even know how I got there half the time, but I would be like in my soccer clothes, changing into my volleyball uniform, like in the locker room and almost missing the start of a volleyball game. That was insane. I don't know why my parents agreed to let me do that because that was so much extra stress on them, I'm sure. And I just don't want that for Harper. So, like, one thing I have kind of set as a boundary in my own mind is that she won't be super involved with everything. And that comes from somebody who was involved in a lot of after school stuff, but I tried to make sure they weren't like overlapping all the time. And I think it's just going to have to be a rule that you do like one sport a season if she chooses to do something like that, because it just becomes way too much. And it immediately gets kids, in my opinion, in the rhythm of staying busy and having something to do all the time. Because with sports, there's all kinds of practices and games and traveling and, all of these things. And then if you have multiple sports in one season, like it is just fucking crazy, right? So that is something for me and my family that we're already talking about. Like, we're not going to be spending every weekend all over the place. Like, we will be more than happy to indulge in the things that she is interested in, but there's got to be a boundary. It won't be at the expense of our family and like causing tons of unnecessary stress. So that's one thing that we've thought about already. But then on the flip side, there was a boundary that we had to start enforcing once we realized how big of a problem it was. And basically, when Dylan was working third shift for a good portion of our marriage, Sundays were our only like good full day. His sleep schedule was totally opposite of mine. And like Saturdays were always hard because I was photographing weddings. Sometimes he came with me or met me later, or, by the time I got home from a wedding, I was exhausted. But then he was up all night. So it was like, we always had a rough time like spending quality time together. And then Sundays kind of became our day. And basically that happened because the first thing that we realized had to go was Sunday morning church. Like, it was so unrealistic for Dylan to get up and go to church. Normally, we would get up and go to the first service so that he could go home and nap, if I remember right, and like sleep for a good portion of the afternoon. We felt so obligated to go to church. Both of our families went to the same church, and like, there's just obviously all of this pressure around going to church, especially on Sunday morning. So the first thing that went was church, because we started going to a Saturday night service because that's what made sense for us. Dylan was working third shift. He slept all day long. So it was insane for him to try every Friday, Saturday, Sunday to totally flip his sleep and then flip it back just for us to go to a Sunday morning church service that lasted, an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever. That was stupid. But that was very hard for us to make that change because we felt we were being judged for not going to Sunday morning church, because I feel like there are certain people, or we just felt that pressure. Like, why aren't you going on Sunday morning? You should be going on Sunday morning, that whole thing. So anyway, Sunday morning church was the first thing to go. And once we started going to a different church where we weren't surrounded by people we knew, we started really enjoying our Sundays. And like, they were so slow and easy, and we could relax and rest and spend that quality time together. And so then he was back on days for a short amount of time. And then when COVID became a thing, there were lots of layoffs and shuffling around, and he ended up on third shift again. And then at that point, we had Harper, and I was not afraid to start enforcing some serious boundaries. And I said, Sundays, we've got to protect our Sundays. You work nights and you're sleeping all day, every day, while I'm hanging out with this crying baby and this barking dog. And Sundays were like the only thing that felt sacred to us, just because of the way his sleep and like when he would work overtime and all of that, which that's not really important, but basically just Sundays was the easy day for us to spend some time together and just take it slow. And so for a long time, we had a rule that like, we don't do anything on Sunday. We don't go anywhere. If people want to come to us, okay. If we decide that we want to go out to dinner or go do something, that's fine. But Sundays are no pressure days. They are sacred and protected. And like, Dylan and I both needed that for our sanity. He needed to be able to have that quality time with Harper and with me, and to just not have the pressure of packing up our baby, getting dressed, going somewhere, and or trying to visit with multiple families in the same day. It was just too much. So that just became like a blanket rule. And basically how we would end up saying no to things was just redirecting and saying, well, we are available on Saturday evening, Friday evening, even Saturday for breakfast. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, Dylan just came in here and scared the shit out of me because he is a dick. So I kind of forget what I was saying, but essentially, we have and have had non negotiables that, again, was just that like blanket. It's a no to everybody. It's a no. If we decide to change it to a yes, that's okay. but it is no out the gate. And we started just like talking about how Sundays were our family days, or asking again to like do it at a different day or a different time. And people started to get the hint that like we were not available on Sundays. And it was glorious. Now that he's back on day shift, this is not one that we like enforce as much. But still, Sunday mornings is like nothing. No pressure. Dylan and I both get to sleep in as late as Harper sleeps in. We usually end up watching cartoons in bed, or we go out to the couch and watch cartoons, make breakfast together. We usually try to take Sundays slow and easy. That way, the three of us can have some really good quality time together. And again, that is what works for our family. So once you have these things reprioritized and you have your non negotiables in place, even if it's just like a mental note, but you can definitely use like the notes app on your phone or something to write these down so that you remember what your priorities are. Then make time for them. So schedule them. I am trying to get better about Dylan and I having a monthly date night. Weekly would be amazing. That's not going to happen. That's not realistic in this season of life. Monthly is like ideal, but usually it's about every other month that we get out by ourselves to have dinner together. And I actually do need to get our next date on the calendar, because if I don't, it will get away from me. But you just have to start scheduling in those priority things. If it doesn't become like a routine, like our Sunday mornings routine, we aren't going anywhere before like 10:30 on a Sunday. And we know that, and we are used to that boundary and kind of that rule. And so that's not a problem. We don't like fuck with that. But for a date night, it's so easy for us to just not schedule it, to not call a babysitter or ask a grandparent if they want to hang out with Harper, and it just gets away from us. And then we end up going months without having like quality alone time together for us to reconnect. And I know that it is so important for our relationship to have that alone time to then come back home, be good parents, and be good partners in life. And so scheduling time for that, and or alone time or time with a friend, if that's how you kind of recharge and feel better, like whatever your priorities are, make a sacred space for them in your life, whether you have to physically put it on a calendar, or you can just make a mental note of every Monday, I'm going to do this activity, whether that's quality time with myself or with my partner or my kid or, your parent, whatever is that priority for you. And so that's kind of all the prep work I would suggest you kind of start working on before you really just bravely say no to everyone, because sometimes an ask from somebody else might align with what you want and where you're hoping your life goes. And so, again, definitely reprioritize, figure out what truly matters to you, not what will make you look good if you prioritize it. And, it might not be your family, it might not be yourself. Just be honest with yourself. What are your priorities? What do you want most out of life? What's going to help you get there? And then really thinking about those boundaries and setting them intentionally instead of just like a spur of the moment thing will make them feel more real, and like you've really taken the time to think about them and sit with it, and it's like something that you're really comfortable enforcing. Then you can start saying no to small things. And again, having like the blanket no's is great. And for me, I have made it a rule for myself, and I've set this boundary. I do not buy anything online anymore when it comes to like online courses and ebooks and basically things that influencers are selling. And that's because I have gotten burned several times spending hundreds and hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars on, workshops and guided whatever bullshit and courses and all of these different things. Everybody's out there selling something, right? And so for me, I'm just like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to fall into buying something, even if it's $20, because that $20 adds up. If I find somebody that I really enjoy, I will do all the research. I will dig into all of their content, learn as much as I can from them for free. And then if I feel like it's still not getting me the result that I want, then I will look into investing in them. But I don't anymore buy anything just like immediately after like the first webinar or first time it pops up on an ad or something like that. I really want to make sure it's like an informed decision, because a lot of times I have felt that pressure of, oh, we only have an hour left to get this deal, da, da, da. And then I'm just putting in my card information and, my money's gone. And then I haven't gained anything. And this kind of happened when we were sleep training Harper. I found Little Z's sleep training or something like that. I've watched like all of her YouTube videos, listened to her podcast, dug into her blog, all of her free resources, like everything. And I was trying everything. And then we still were struggling with the sleeping thing. And then I finally bought the like $75 course or whatever it was. And it gave me the couple other little pieces I needed to get Harper sleeping well and our house being much happier. So that was worth it. But again, I feel like because I like exhausted all of her free information and education, I felt better about buying the course, even though I was like, well, I knew most of this from all of the other research that I've done off of, her website and things like that. But still, I was more willing to pay that money also because she had so much out there for free that I had consumed. So anyway, those are some examples of boundaries and priorities and blanket no statements, I guess. So now I'm going to get into the actual, like, what the hell do you say to somebody when you need to say no, but you don't want to sound like an asshole. You don't want to be a dick. You just want to be like, I still like you and I don't want you to be upset with me, but I have to say no. So again, these things are going to be like short, quick little things that you can say. You can type them out in your phone. I like to think of them as like an email template, right? Like you can copy and paste it and save it for later. That way, when you need to send one of these responses, maybe it doesn't hurt as much or it makes you less nervous because past you already worded it. And honestly, I'm going to say it for you. So you can just be like, well, Morgan told me to tell you no. Sorry. Instead of having all of that pressure on yourself and have like your shaky fingers try to type it out in the moment. That is no fun. So I think the way to really go about this is to kind of make a little no sandwich, right? Like pat it with something very nice and very kind and something that's not apologetic, but it's something that makes you sound grateful for the opportunity. And then you slip in the no. And then at the end, don't come up with like a big, long excuse. Just make it a statement. And that's all it needs to be. They don't need all the backstory as to why you need to say no, why this is not a good time for you. You can simply say, thank you so much for thinking of me. Unfortunately, I can't at this time. That's it. Honestly, I would probably take out the unfortunately. Thank you so much for thinking of me. I just can't right now. Something like that. I don't have the time, thank you for thinking of me, but I can't at this time. Short, sweet, kind. You're grateful that somebody was thinking of you, but you just can't. And that can be the end of it. You don't have to come up with excuses and reasons why you deserve to say no, or like it's okay for you to say no. Another way you can say this is thank you, but I have another commitment. Easy peasy, right? You still said thank you, but then you inserted that you cannot do it because you have another commitment. Very vague. Honestly, it's none of their business why you can't do something. That's all you need to do. And in these situations, I think sometimes it's okay to tell a white lie just because some people don't know how to take no as an answer. So sometimes you feel like you have to explain yourself a little bit more. So if you're in one of those situations, you can try one of these next no statements. So you can either say, I can't commit to this right now. Or if you feel like you need to add a little something else to it, you can say, I can't commit to this right now. I just have too much going on. I have too much on my plate. I am just feeling really down. I'm not feeling great. You can add something. Just don't like write a paragraph about why you can't do something. I've done that so many times in the past. And then I'm like, why? They don't care. They just want to know whether or not I'm interested, whether or not I'm willing to do it. and I just need to say no sometimes and keep it short and sweet. And like if you're honestly feeling low energy and you're feeling drained and like it's just something that you cannot physically do, you can say, I really wish I could make it work, but I just really need to rest. I am not up to it. I am not feeling great. And that doesn't have to mean that you're sick. I feel like a lot of the times the only like valid reason to get out of something is if you are like truly sick or you literally have another commitment that's at the same exact time. It seems like those are the only two options. And there have been many times where I have been sick and I have felt bullied into doing certain things and attending certain events because somebody else was putting that pressure on me. And I have gone sick as a dog to things that I shouldn't have. And like, it's not good for anybody. I didn't have a good time. I felt like things were awkward because I was like obviously sick and coughing and sneezing or whatever it was. And this was before COVID. But still, like, I was like, why did I put myself through that? Because then I was even more exhausted from straining myself and being out and about when I should have been in bed. And then this last one I'm going to say is a short and simple one that I think can work great for a lot of commitments and asks that just aren't good for right now. Some things like attending a certain event that's on a specific day and time or doing an activity or something like that, you might need to just nix it altogether. But if you have like a friend or family member or somebody who wants to hang out or they need help with something, and it's like more flexible, then you can just say, I would love to, but can we do it another time? Like today's not good for me. This weekend's not going to be good for me. Because another thing I tend to do is say yes to too many things, like all in the same weekend. And then like I need a weekend from my weekend. Like I'm so tired from doing all of these things and going to all these places and talking to people. And it's like, if I could have just spread that out a little bit, I wouldn't feel so drained. I could have done like one thing one weekend, two things another weekend, and just not feel so drugged down and burnt out from doing it all in one weekend. I really like to have some kind of balance in my weekend where it's a good amount of rest and play and work. I like to be able to clean on the weekends. That's just like a good little reset for me. And obviously, it's nice to go out and have fun and hang out with friends or family on the weekend. But then I also want to rest at home and I want to have that quality family time that sometimes it's hard to get in through the week because you're just in your daily routine and going through the motions and probably tired from the work week. So I hope those phrases are helpful for you. I know a lot of this was about like the prep work, but honestly, that is so important to be able to get clear on your own boundaries and what is important to you, because then you truly can say no to things and still be kind to people because you are taking care of yourself. And if they aren't comfortable with your boundaries, that's on them. That is not on you. And if you're making boundaries out of spite, then you can end up sounding like a dick when you say no to people. So you've got to get your mindset and your heart in the right place before you just start saying no to everyone and doing it in like a hateful way that is not constructive or beneficial to anyone. So like I said, feel free to copy and paste these little templates. No templates. I feel like I should come up with a different saying for that, but I hope they are helpful. Just keep them somewhere in your phone or somewhere that's easy to access, even if you just need an idea of like, how do I like respond to this? How do I start this conversation? How do I do it in a way that's not going to hurt feelings? And I think you'll be able to say no without sounding like a dick all the time. So everybody wins in that situation, in my opinion. If you have somebody in your life who says yes to everything and needs to stop, maybe send this to them. And again, sometimes this is something I still struggle with. I have gotten so much better at protecting my boundaries, but there are still plenty of things that end up just kind of getting brushed under the rug for me, or I'm like, it's okay, we can violate this boundary for this one situation, this one time, and then it happens again, and then again, and then again. And then I have to be like, okay, no, Like it needs to stop. So feel free to just check back in with yourself every now and then. Like I said, I've definitely talked about this topic before. I will link one of the first episodes that I did all about saying no and setting boundaries. And I hope that you can go back and listen to that. And again, just kind of brainstorm maybe some boundaries that would be a good fit for you and for your family. Like that is what matters the most, is that you are living a life that you are happy with and that you are worthy of, instead of living your life out based on what other people and society and our culture has pressured you to feel like your life needs to be. You can say no to whatever you want to. If you want to do it kindly, then you can take notes from this episode. And again, some people don't know how to take no for an answer. So you might have to be less passive and just like straight up be like, no, it's not happening. That's the end of that. So just take each situation, and you're going to have to make that decision for yourself. But I hope this topic has been helpful. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Fist, you know what I mean? Like, well, not really, since he's.
I'm leaving!